The day my dad passed away, I called Wendy a bunch of times. All I got back was a text saying she was working late. But then, her personal assistant posted something on social media just for me to see. There was a picture of him holding hands with Wendy by the river, watching fireworks. That was it for me. I ended the relationship just like that. She suddenly showed a side of her I hadn't seen before, with tears in her eyes, asking, "Jason, please come back. Okay?" But all I heard was, "Sorry, the number you have dialed is currently unavailable." This was my 99th call to Wendy that night, and she still didn't pick up. I was sitting on a bench outside the operating room, tears welling up. Dad had been bedridden for years, and suddenly his condition worsened, and he was rushed into surgery. I got to the hospital as fast as I could, only to get a critical condition notice. When the doctor asked me to prepare for the worst, I called Wendy with trembling hands. "Wendy, please answer the phone," but she didn't. I thought she was just busy. Then I saw her assistant's post. Fireworks blossom with each heartbeat, and there was a photo of him holding hands with someone. I felt like I fell into an icy pit, because those were hands I knew too well. Wendy's hands. Just then, Wendy messaged me. "Working late, stop calling." Pain gripped my heart, but before I could process it, the operating room door opened, and I looked at the doctor with hope. He shook his head, looked at me with pity, and said, "I'm sorry, we did our best." I don't remember much about handling the aftermath, only that I was crying uncontrollably by my dad's bedside, watching his pale face being covered with a white cloth. When I came to, I was sitting in the hospital hallway with Wendy's call flashing on my phone. I stared at her name for the longest time before finally answering just before it stopped ringing. Wendy sounded impatient, probably not expecting my delay. "Why did it take you so long to answer?" I opened my mouth, throat dry. Busy, didn't see it. A silence where she waited for more, sensing something was off. "What happened? Where are you?" No way was I going to tell her about today. It wouldn't be her business soon anyway. "Nothing much," I said calmly. "Warm up the milk yourself. I won't be home tonight." I'd always warm her milk before bed, no matter how late she came home. Realizing this now made me feel foolish and pathetic. There was distance in my voice, making her uneasy. "Where are you? I'll come get you." I almost laughed, but stifled it as it made me think of Dad. I just wanted to be alone. "No need, I'll be back tomorrow. You've been working hard, get some rest." Wendy paused, maybe she was nervous, almost like she feared I knew something. She quickly ended the call with an excuse. I put the phone down quietly, sitting there with a storm of emotions inside. Closing my eyes, I could still hear my dad's gentle voice echoing in my mind. But now, even his shadow was slipping away. I didn't have the energy to explain or argue. Even breathing seemed burdensome. In that quiet night, I could only bear the pain of losing someone dear. I suddenly remembered something from when I was 18, something I said to Wendy. Back then, her dad had just taken his own life. Wendy's life story was tragic. Her mom was a compulsive gambler who left a massive debt and got killed by collectors. Her dad had to resort to illegal underground fighting to pay the debt and make ends meet. Wendy juggled 3 jobs to help out, all while being a student. But the debt was crushing them. Finally, during her senior year of high school, her dad couldn't bear the pressure and gossip anymore and ended his life. I went to her house to borrow some notes and found the door ajar. I found her in the bathroom, staring vacantly at her dad's body, like she might collapse any second. The blood made me queasy. Without thinking, I covered Wendy's eyes and led her out. She didn't resist like a puppet, but I felt her tears against my hand. Later, the neighbors called the police. I stayed with Wendy through her dad's funeral. Back at her place, she broke down. Why does everyone leave me?" she cried, pounding the wall, tears streaming. It hurt seeing her like that, so I hugged her softly. "Wendy, you've still got me. I won't leave you." She paused, then clung to me tightly, like I was her lifeline. Jason, you're all I have." She was at her lowest, and I was her only support. But now, I've lost someone close too, and the person who should be with me is with someone else. I covered my face with my hand, but no tears came out. I cried them all over Dad's body. After a while, I picked up my phone and made a call. "Hi, can you draft a divorce agreement for me?" The next day, I went home for a bit while Wendy was at work. I pulled out a suitcase and started packing. Didn't take much, not even the gifts Wendy gave me on holidays. Once I finished, I messaged Wendy. "I'm going on a business trip for a few days." No reply. She was probably with Andrew enjoying a love-filled lunch. I didn't expect a quick response anyway. Without lingering, I went straight to the airport. That week, I busied myself with Dad's funeral back home. I didn't tell any of our mutual friends about it to avoid Wendy. When I finally heard from her, it was already a week later. I just got off the plane when I got a call from my best buddy, Dave. He handled some of my divorce stuff while I was away. "Jason, are you sure about this?" Dave's voice was full of concern. When I first told him I wanted a divorce, he was so shocked he nearly dropped his phone. We've been together for over a decade, from school uniforms to wedding dresses. Our friends thought our love story was proof that real love existed. Too bad it didn't work out that way. As I grabbed my luggage from the carousel, I replied, "Yeah, I've made up my mind. Don't worry." Dave heard the determination in my voice and decided to bring up something else. "Are you really moving abroad?" "Yeah, the research I did in college is better done overseas. If it wasn't for Wendy, I would have gone there right after graduation. My old college professor even tried convincing me to go back then, but I always came up with excuses. Deep down, he knew I just didn't want to leave Wendy. Now I'm set on this new path. I've spoken to my professor and he's welcomed me back. I just need to clear things up here before heading to his research center." I chatted a bit more with Dave, but when I got to the arrivals area to grab a cab, I saw someone unexpected. Wendy. What was she doing here? According to my frontline reporter, Dave, she should be at the hospital with Andrew, who's recovering from a serious car accident. No matter her reason for being here, I really didn't want to run into her. I pulled my hat lower and put on my mask, hoping to pass by unnoticed. Maybe she's moved on to someone new because she didn't recognize me. She just kept waiting there. I glanced back, thinking I might have been overthinking it. But just as I took a few steps, someone grabbed my wrist. I instinctively pulled away, only to see it was Wendy. "It's me," she said, sounding a bit off. She stood in front of me, not looking pleased. "Why'd you pretend not to see me?" she asked with a hint of irritation. I blinked innocently and smiled slightly. "Thought you were waiting for someone else." She paused, a bit annoyed. "You're my husband. Who else would I be waiting for?" She always had a way of making simple statements sound like accusations. "Why are you upset?" I replied casually. "If you're here for me, let's go." She seemed taken aback by my attitude and frowned deeply. "If you have something to say, just say it." "What's with the attitude?" She huffed, and then seemed to sigh, realizing something. "Andrew's accident was because of me, you know that. I couldn't just leave him," she explained. We'd argued about this stuff a lot before. I'd asked why she was always so irritable with me but so kind to Andrew. I mean, I'm her husband. She never denied nor explained, just letting me vent until I was too exhausted. Then she'd simply say, "Stop it," sort of like now. I sighed, echoing her words back to her. "Stop it." Her expression darkened as if realizing the impact of those words for the first time. She tried to say something more but saw me heading towards the parking lot and reluctantly followed. As she drove, I remembered I needed to meet a lawyer about the divorce. "Drop me off at the next intersection. I've got something to take care of around here." Wendy didn't seem to hear and kept driving. The Saturday, she finally said, "So what?" "Some law firms work on Saturdays." I asked, "What's so special about today?" Caught off guard by my question, she glanced at me during a red light, back to her old self. "I'll be home today," she offered like it was a gift. "And? What did that have to do with me handling my business?" Wendy looked like she was hearing wrong. I used to never go out on weekends, wanting to spend every moment with her. Even if she worked late, I'd wait for her, savoring every minute we had together. But once Andrew showed up, that time dwindled. Sometimes, when I called her, Andrew would answer, saying she was working late and wouldn't make it home. But was that just work if she left her phone with him? Even at home, a so-called work call from Andrew would pull her away all day. We fought about this often, but she'd just act frustrated and tell me to calm down. It's just work, and Andrew's a hard worker. He takes initiative. I'm just doing my job as his boss. I'd pleaded with her to stay, begging her to choose me, but she'd just frown. Jason, you used to be more reasonable, she'd say, leaving me looking ghostly. The more it happened, the less I cared about those rare moments together. Looking back, I guess that was the beginning of the end for us. As we neared the lawyer's office, I tried again. I've got nothing to do at home, you can let me out here. I'll catch a ride back later. Wendy stopped. She sighed and rubbed her temples. Jason, you're pushing it. I blinked. Who's causing all this fuss? My requests weren't unreasonable, right? I explained it to you, there's nothing between me and Andrew. We're just boss and employee. I only care about him because of how he helps me. I gestured for her to stop talking. I chuckled a bit. I didn't say there's anything between you and Andrew. I'm not angry or upset. Just drop me off up ahead. Wendy gave me a deep, complex look with a hint of unease. Jason, she seemed like she had more to say, but my firm demeanor stopped her. She reluctantly pulled over. After getting out of the car, she didn't leave right away. I shot her a questioning look. I'll wait for you here. We'll head home together once you're done. Her voice had an unusual touch of warmth. It had been so long since I'd seen her wear that expression. I almost forgot how gentle she could be. Back in the day, no matter what was happening, I'd hop right back into the car, even if the sky was falling. But now I couldn't care less. There's no reason to sweat over someone who's pretty much about to be a stranger. I didn't stop her from insisting on waiting, but someone else wasn't happy about it. I had barely walked a few steps when she got a call. Her face changed in an instant, filled with urgency and worry. How long had it been since I'd seen her look like that? Doesn't matter, it's clearly not me she's worried about. Sure enough, Wendy hurriedly drove off, not even bothering to explain the situation. I turned and walked into the law firm. Not that I'd been counting on her to go home with me anyway. A moment later, while discussing divorce proceedings with the lawyer, I got a text from an unknown number. I can make her drop you in a heartbeat. Don't you get it yet? You'd better leave her on your own. Then came a photo. A hand with an 4 rested lightly on a woman's hand, and the woman seemed to sense it, gently clasping his fingertips. I thought for a moment and calmly replied, "As you wish." It was afternoon by the time I left the law firm. I pulled out my phone to text Wendy, since she took my luggage. I noticed over a dozen unread messages. Sorry, Andrew's condition suddenly got worse. I have to go. He was in that accident because of me. I can't just leave him be. Jason, did you see the messages? Jason, reply if you see this. Jason, what's your deal? I was just checking on a subordinate. What are you mad about this time? I won't be back today. Let's talk once you've calmed down. I was kinda speechless. Their loss that the drama club didn't recruit Wendy back then. Barely missed some messages, and she's already crafted an entire narrative. Too lazy to argue, I just replied with a simple okay. I grabbed a cab home. Wendy must have arranged to have my luggage sent back. There it was, sitting alone in the entryway, looking out of place in this house. I fetched a signed divorce agreement from my bag, placed it on the coffee table, and snapped a pic to send to Wendy. Sign this when you get home. I'm leaving. You can just mail it to the lawyer later. After sending the message, I gave the once cozy home one last glance. What surprised me was how calm I felt. When I reached the door to change shoes, I got another notification. I assumed it was Wendy, but it turned out to be Andrew. He sent a photo of a men's watch, nothing more. I knew what he meant. Wendy had given it to him. Clearly, she cared a great deal for this assistant. I quickly changed my shoes and typed a reply. Nice. Take good care of it. I didn't feel dishonest saying that. Wendy's taste has always been impeccable. When we got married, I loved the ring she picked. I slipped off the ring on my finger and set it on the shoe rack. I have Andrew to thank for reminding me. I almost forgot to take off the ring. Once I left, I took out the SIM card, broke it in two, tossed it into the nearest trash can, and crashed at Dave's for the night. The next morning, I hailed a cab to the cemetery. There were still loose ends to tie up regarding my dad's passing. I wrapped things up and was about to call my best friend when I noticed a string of messages from him. "Jason, where are you? Wendy's been calling around. Did you change numbers without telling her? Don't worry, I didn't spill the beans. I know you've got your reasons. Did you tell her about the divorce?" Man, seeing her panic was hilarious. "Finally, you've come to your senses after all these years. I always knew she was trouble. Glad you're serious this time. You moving back? Or wanna crash at mine?" I couldn't help but laugh. There's a reason we're besties. He gets me without me saying a word. I dialed him up right away. "Dave, I'm homeless. Care to take me in?" I teased. He burst out laughing. "Do you even need to ask?" "Of course." But then he suddenly got serious. "Watch out, though. Wendy's acting all frantic. She's been showing up at friends' places. She might come looking for you." He kept rambling on, but I tuned out when I saw Wendy across the street the minute I stepped out of the cemetery. I couldn't help but gripe to Dave, "Dude, seriously, you jinxed it. She's really here." I hung up the call, and in those few seconds, Wendy crossed to where I was. The urgency I thought I saw melted away as she got closer. Standing in front of me, her face went cold with anger. "Are you done with this nonsense?" She reached out to grab my hand. I sidestepped, puzzled. "What nonsense, Wendy?" She looked like she was gritting her teeth as she shoved a stack of papers at me. I realized it was the divorce papers. I was at a loss for words. Who runs around with divorce papers in hand like that? Didn't I say just send it to the law firm? The lawyer will handle the rest. I looked at her seriously, wondering why she specifically wanted to see me. "Jason." Okay, now she's mad. But why is she mad? Mad that I didn't handle the divorce stuff faster? Didn't expect she was in such a hurry. I really can't figure her out. Maybe I never did. I cleared my throat and looked at her. Her face was stormy. All right, don't be mad." I tried to ease the tension. As her attitude softened, my next words just frustrated her even more. "Since you're here, should we swing by the county office and get the divorce papers? Save ourselves an extra couple trips." Wendy couldn't take it. She grabbed my hand and dragged me to the car. "In such a hurry?" "Shut up." The car was deathly quiet. I glanced at Wendy a couple of times. I'd never seen her so mad. "What are you looking at?" Wendy asked coldly, eyes on the road. She didn't even turn her head. I blinked. This didn't seem to be the way to the county office. Wendy slammed the brakes and pulled over. I was startled, just about to complain. "How long are you going to keep this up?" Wendy seemed to have reached her limit, gripping the steering wheel so tightly her fingertips were white. She turned to look at me, with an emotion I couldn't quite read. "Since yesterday you've been acting strange. Staying out all night and talking divorce. Tell me, Jason, what is going on?" The suspicion and questioning in her eyes made it clear. She thought I'd cheated. "You really don't know what I mean?" I smirked coldly. "Divorce will be good for both of us. You have your fling and I have my life." Wendy's face darkened instantly. "I don't know what you mean. Andrew is just my assistant. I was just looking out for him, 'cause he got in an accident because of me." "I know." Wendy seemed flustered, maybe even angry, insisting, "There's nothing between us. Can you stop the jealousy?" Hearing this, I sighed, feeling a bit tired explaining myself. "I'm not jealous. Even if you slept with him, I'd be okay." Wendy was completely stunned. She never imagined I would say something like that. She opened her mouth but was at a loss for words. It seemed like she even considered I might need my head checked. "Jason, what's wrong with you? What are you even saying? How could I ever cheat?" Maybe she realized it sounded unconvincing. Wendy cleared her throat. "Anyway, I won't agree to a divorce." Now it was my turn to be annoyed. "Why not?" "No reason. But why do you want a divorce?" Wendy seemed to feel wronged, not knowing what could have happened overnight that made me suddenly want a divorce. My eyelashes fluttered, looking out the window. It took me a while to say something unexpected. "Do you remember a few weeks ago when I called you multiple times at night?" "When don't you call me multiple times a night?" Wendy quipped. "How would I know which night you're talking about?" See, she never cared much. I scoffed and put my hand on the door handle. "If you don't remember, Then I won't bother explaining. Just assume I don't love you anymore. Yeah, she doesn't love me, so I won't love her either. But she seemed to misunderstand, yanking me back onto the seat, eyes flaring with anger. You don't love me? Then who do you love? I was dumbfounded. Are these roles reversed? That should be my question for her, right? I was silent for a moment before bursting into laughter, leaving Wendy puzzled. How could she accuse me? Someone who ditched her husband to watch fireworks with her fling. How dare she suspect me of cheating? I laughed until I teared up, taking a long time to regain composure. Sorry, just thought of something funny. I wiped the tears away, quietly staring at her face. How long has it been since I really looked at her? She's always busy working, busy socializing, busy cozying up with her little fling. I was a bit lost. Like the girl who used to take such good care of me had drifted away over the years. Do you remember high school senior year? Suddenly, bitterness rose within me. If I'm in pain, she'd understand. She clearly knew what I was talking about, but her face turned grim. She hates it when I bring up the past. I'm aware. Those times were so dark. She said I was her only light. Seems I've become part of her unwanted past now. Why bring that up? You know I don't like it when you talk about it. I don't have a dad anymore. I cut her off. Seeing her face go blank brought a brief sense of satisfaction. You never told me, Jason. I'm sorry. She looked guilty and regretful. But how could I forgive her? I let out a cold laugh. Of course you wouldn't know. I pulled up that one private message Andrew posted on social media, waving it at her. Busy watching fireworks with your fling, weren't you? Her face instantly changed, turning pale. She almost immediately grabbed my hand. Jason, I'm sorry, I'm not. Just hear me out. Okay? Pain and remorse washed over her features. But I didn't plan to listen anymore. My goal was achieved. I had exposed my wounds, wanting to tear open her hardened pain. My voice was calm, sounding like a death knell to Wendy. Remember when your dad died? I was right there with you. So when my dad was dying, you were the first I thought of. I looked at her, no longer with the love and tenderness I once had. But where were you? Her grip slackened, overwhelmed by the grief that kept her from holding on. Since we're not heading to the courthouse today, I'm gonna head out. Someone's here to pick me up. I stood up, nudged her aside, and opened the car door. Dave waved to me from outside. As I got in the car, I had already texted him, and he showed up right on time. I turned back, put on a neutral face, and cheerfully told Wendy, whenever you're ready to split, just give me a holler. I'm around, but if it's urgent, better book me in advance. She looked a bit stunned, as it had been ages since I called her by her full name. That name doesn't roll off my tongue often anymore. I was about to walk away when she rushed out of the car and grabbed my arm. But before she could speak, her phone rang. As she looked at her phone, I slipped out of her grip. Saw the caller ID too, Andrew. I smirked. Looks like you've got a call. Let's catch up at the courthouse next time. In just a few steps, I was by Dave's car, but glanced back to see she hadn't picked up. She just looked at me, anxious. She rushed over, trying to catch my arm. Jason, I didn't mean. I shook her off, chuckled, and left with Dave. The next day, I woke up in Dave's guest room. It was almost noon. Checked my phone. Yep, a bunch of missed calls from strange numbers. Probably all from Wendy. I rubbed my hair, picked a number, and called back. Answered in a second, but it wasn't Wendy on the other end. I had been through this enough times to know who it was. Andrew. Jason. I knew his voice too well. Let's meet. I'm at the cafe below your office. I didn't ask why. I had a hunch, so I didn't bother saying no. All right, see you soon. In the cafe, two guys were sitting in the corner. Talk about awkward vibes. Andrew couldn't sit still and started talking. Don't think Wendy calling you means she can't let go, he said, full of mockery and disdain. You know why she doesn't agree to the divorce? 'Cause I haven't popped the question yet. I was recording this whole thing thinking it could be useful in court. He thought I was scared. Silent and all. You've only got yourself to blame for being so unlikable. Wendy gets a headache just thinking about you. Well, you should hurry her to the courthouse then. I don't want her bugging me daily. I calmly suggested. You. Andrew thought I was mocking him. His handsome face twisted with anger and jealousy. But then he seemed to remember something and calmed down, looking all smug. Don't worry, it won't be long. I didn't get what he meant, but then my coffee arrived. I was about to take a sip when Andrew grabbed my wrist. Next thing I knew, he yanked my hand and spilled coffee on himself. I jumped back in surprise. He barely had any layers on today, and the hot coffee left a nasty red patch on his chest. He looked victorious. Just then, Wendy barged in. I realized her plan right away. To others, it looked as if I had deliberately thrown coffee at him. Andrew gave me a grin, mouthing, "You're screwed." His acting was top-notch, changing expressions in no time. He clutched his burned chest, tears welling up, ready to fall any second. Jason, what the hell? All I wanted was for you not to make things hard for Wendy, and you throw coffee at me? Jason. Wendy's worried voice chimed in. Wendy showing up didn't surprise me. I put down the empty coffee cup and began wiping the coffee off my hands. Might as well let them keep thinking what they think. I already don't have a great rep with Wendy, so no point in denying it. I stayed silent as Andrew started his act. Clutching his chest, he looked at Wendy. I'm fine, Wendy. Jason's just having a bad day. Wendy's face was stormy, but not aimed at me. Get out. Don't come back tomorrow. She barked at Andrew, shocking him into silence. Wendy, I didn't mean… do I need to say it again? Ignoring Andrew, she turned to me, her expression softening with worry. Did you get burned? I was as shocked as Andrew, just standing there, dumbfounded. Had she gone nuts? Shouldn't she say that to Andrew? Wendy, it's Andrew with the coffee stain. I pointed at Andrew. Jason, I'm not with him. You're my husband. Why would I care about some other guy? Desperate to prove herself, she didn't care that Andrew was still there. I ignored her and calmly packed my stuff. Maybe you should check on him instead. He looks like he's about to fall apart. With that, the misunderstanding cleared up. I had no interest in playing along with their drama. Jason. Wendy panicked, but her softness didn't sway me. She trailed behind me, looking oddly pitiful despite being 5'7". I didn't care what had gotten into her. I've signed the divorce papers. Tomorrow we settle it. She almost pleaded, Jason, please don't. What would it take for you to forgive me? If you divorce me, maybe I'll think about it. I stood by the curb, waiting for Dave to pick me up. Wendy didn't expect my response. Her face said it looked like she could cry. Okay, she answered, voice trembling. The divorce went through quickly. Even if Wendy was reluctant, her pride wouldn't let her back out. Her face was sour the whole time, but we got through the process. The moment I had the divorce papers in hand, I felt a surprising sense of relief. Wish you happiness, I told Wendy, then turned to leave. She suddenly grabbed me, stopping me, and asked, Jason, have you forgiven me? Her expression reminded me of her at 18, the same look she had when she said I was the only one for her. I gently freed myself from her hand, looked down, and replied, I forgive you. Before she could feel happy, I said, but there's no chance for us anymore. Saying that, I walked away. Wendy just stood there, not moving for a long time. The day after our divorce, I flew abroad and started a new life. My research institute's mentor provided me with great support and help, and I quickly immersed myself in work. Having a void for so many years, I kept myself busy, not having time for anything else. But Wendy regretted it. She regretted it the day of the divorce. She kept trying to talk to me, unwilling to give up. But she couldn't find me because I hadn't told her about going abroad. Yet she didn't give up on finding out about me. She found Dave, wanting to know how I was doing. Her constant inquiries annoyed Dave until he finally told her the truth. Can you just let Jason go? Dave said coldly, you think he didn't know? Every time you and Andrew were together, Andrew would post something on his social media visible only to Jason. Wendy was stunned, as if struck by lightning. You know how many times Jason was provoked by Andrew, right? If you ever cared about him, you'd know his questions weren't without reason. Later, Dave told me that Wendy kept apologizing to him for neglecting me. He said Wendy finally understood how big of a mistake she had made. She began to regret it immensely, realizing her neglect and hurt towards me. She kept trying to contact me, but I had changed my number and cut off all ties with her. She could only get news of me through Dave, learning I was doing well abroad, which made her feel both happy and pained. Dave said Wendy became like a walking dead, her life becoming unbearably hollow. She constantly reminisced about our time together, feeling increasingly foolish for her past decisions. She started frequently visiting places I used to like, hoping to find any trace of me. She even left Andrew. Due to her being so heartless, Andrew began spreading stories about her, like leaving her husband right after her dad passed to be with some guy, giving him fancy watches and so on, ruining her reputation and causing her company's stock to plummet. But Wendy didn't seem to care about anything anymore, only drinking herself into oblivion, yelling my name. She brought this on herself. Jason, don't let your heart soften, Dave said worriedly before hanging up. I chuckled, telling him not to worry. To me, Wendy was already in the past. Without Wendy, my life was still good. Later, I returned to my country for an academic conference. Somehow, Wendy found out and came early to wait outside the venue for me. The moment I got out of the car, she rushed over. Jason. Her eyes were red, her voice trembling. I'm sorry, it was my fault. I was taken aback, not expecting to see her here. Wendy, we're divorced, I said calmly. You don't have to apologize for the past. Wendy shook her head, her eyes filled with pain and regret. Jason, I really know I was wrong. She choked up. Please, give me a chance to make up for my mistake. I looked at her, feeling incredibly calm inside. I had imagined many times how I'd feel seeing Wendy again. The past love and hate intertwined but could no longer stir any waves in my heart. I smiled at her faintly, calm yet detached. Wendy, our past can't be changed. You should move forward and find your own happiness. A hint of despair flashed in Wendy's eyes, but she nodded. I understand, she said softly, but I'll always wait for you, until you're willing to forgive me. I said nothing more and turned to go into the venue. I knew Wendy stood there watching my back, but no matter how much regret and pain filled her heart at that moment, it had nothing to do with me. I would look forward and shine brightly in the field I excelled in, and none of it involved Wendy. I would live well and love myself properly.